Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
Hey, if everybody can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we're now moving on to the agenda. The first item is a motion to approve Planning Commission's recommended approval of George Turnbull and Laura Vogel, 2367 Edgerton Road, seeking recommendation of lot consolidation of the various parcels into one parcel, and there are 3 parcels. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this?
Yes. Hi, George Turnbull. We're just planning to move to University Heights, and part of the reason we bought the house was so that we could develop a age-in-place, multi-generational home. Lot consolidation was critical for several reasons, not the least of easing tax management because it becomes a single parcel. Ease of transfer of title, which proved to be a problem when we bought the property in the first place. And finally, by consolidating lot allows us to build an annex, which will allow an age-in-place and multi-generational home development.
Okay, thank you. I did speak to Mr. Rock. It was at the Planning Commission meeting. They passed this. Are there any questions? Hey, is there a motion?
So
Moved. Go ahead.
So moved, Vice Mayor.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Weiser. Any discussion? Hey, Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Approved. Okay, the next agenda item is ordinance 2024-77, amending Exhibit A of the salary ordinance related to city non-bargaining unit positions to include the position of Community Development Coordinator and establish the pay range therefore and declaring an emergency. This was discussed over the last couple months. It was more or less finalized in the last Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee referred it over to City Council. Is there any discussion on this before I make a motion? Ms. Weiser?
I would make a motion
Oh,
to
okay.
approve this.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Sacks.
And just to make sure the motion's on emergency.
On emergency.
It is on second reading, but it's,
Oh, okay, fine. So Ms. Weiser and Mr. King, will you change that to suspend the rules? Oh, you don't need it. It's on second.
you don't need
it's on
to
second
suspend the
reading.
rules.
Not to
It's
suspend.
just on emergency,
It's
so
effective
just,
upon signature.
that's fine. We don't need to suspend the rules. It's on second reading.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks. Aye. Ms. Weiss.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall. Aye. Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
Okay, letter C, ordinance 2025.
Just a point of order. On the last, did we pass that on emergency or no?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Letter C, ordinance 2025-35, amending the exhibit to the city non-collective bargaining employee salary ordinance to amend the job title of assistant to the mayor on special projects to assistant to the mayor on special projects, chief of staff, and declaring an emergency. On emergency, everybody, I hope, did receive an updated spreadsheet with the salary ordinance that was in addition to the packet. Does anyone have any comments or suggestions? Ms. Sacks?
Thank you. For well over a year, there have been several occasions in public meetings to provide opportunity for the mayor, Ms. Deanna Bremer Fisher, and Mr. Mike Cook to be in compliance with the law with regard to using the legal job description title for Deanna Bremer Fisher. This law has been bypassed and ignored by calling, writing, pronouncing Ms. Bremer Fisher's job as Chief of Staff on the University Heights website, on city grant applications and public meetings, at civic gatherings, prematurely printed on business cards, and even on Ms. Bremer Fisher's social media page for a political campaign. Residents have reached out to me that the actions I just described represent qualities they do not want to see in University Heights city representatives. So while proposed ordinance 2025 I believe it's 35, is finally on the agenda, an attempt to be in compliance with the legal process, it should serve as a reminder that elected and employed public city officials will at the very least be reminded when they attempt to act outside of the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sacks. Are there any other comments? Mr. King?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to point out that it's frequent that when trying to tell an employee that they've done a good job, that there are different levers that you can touch there. One is salary, others can be titles. It's frequent to adjust a title. So if she was still working in the same position, same salary, same range, I think we should pass this, but I don't think it is a huge deal.
Thank you, Mr. King. Ms. Weiser?
Well, I certainly do not disagree with the comments that you just made, Councilman King. I would note it is critical if we're going to change a title to ensure that the document that lists pay range also includes that change of title. The administration chose not to submit this to us. And technically, my understanding is that dances on the edge of the law. If we don't have that position, how do you pay the person? I think some things are done because it's appropriate to call the person a chief of staff. But then if you're going to do that, follow through on the paperwork that you should be sending to council to have it approved.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, to that last point, I would refer back to ordinance 2024-77, which was passed today, which was introduced on October 7th. When we bring things to council, they're not acted upon timely. Second of all, we've had numerous instances throughout the history of the city, both prior to my time as mayor and during my time as mayor, where people have acted with titles other than the title that may be on a salary ordinance. In fact, when I got here, there were no current salary ordinances, and all the titles were wildly different. For many years, we called our service director the service director, even though everything in the charter and the ordinances reflected that this was a public works director. Nobody's going to go back and say that for years and years we were paying somebody improperly by calling them the service director. But for political motivations, this allegation is being made against one person in particular, when in fact there are numerous people at the city that have worked with different titles. And the title for this position has changed 4 times during the time that I've been mayor. And this is the first time anybody's made an issue of it. So we've gone ahead and done this rather than not bringing this to the council. We have brought it to the council. It's here today. And that's to clear this up. This is something that we did discuss as a group. If you act like we didn't have that discussion, we did. And this is the solution that we thought would be appropriate without taking, a vote on it. But here's the time that we take the vote to clean this up, as well as one other one. The one that's coming up is our senior services coordinator, who has for quite some time operated under a different title. I hope none of you think that she should be not paid or have to refund her salary because she has operated under the title of Services for Older Adults Coordinator. So these things are things that are quite typical. And I think, the idea that there is anything more to it other than, she's the chief of staff, whether you agree or not. So I hope to pass the ordinance, and thank you. Thank you.
And just to make a point, this is not to touch the assistant to the mayor on special projects salary. It's just the name change. So even if the name is not changed, her salary would be the same. Ms. Weiser?
Yeah. Number one, you very clearly stated that we didn't have good working lists and job descriptions.
That's what I know.
And with the encouragement, I think, of the finance committee, you were willing to work through that. And I think that's wonderful. For some reason, although things have been brought up since then, multiple times at open council meetings, this was not addressed. So to default and say, well, we just always used to do that, sort of flies in the face of the cleanup that you yourself took it upon yourself to do as mayor, which everybody, at least from my understanding, agreed was a very positive thing. And I would quietly point that out to you. Why it didn't come through sooner, I would have thought you would have zipped on that. And yes, it took a conversation in order for this to get generated. And I'm grateful it finally got generated because quite frankly, I was getting sick and tired of hearing about it.
Okay, any other comments? Is there a motion to vote?
We need to suspend the rules.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a motion on suspending the rules?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. King. Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Nay.
Mrs. Wise.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall. Aye. Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
There aren't sufficient votes to suspend the rules, so it will be on second reading at the next.
Okay, I'll be calling a special meeting in short order for that. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Sacks.
Okay, letter D, ordinance 2025-34, amending the exhibit to the city non-collective bargaining employee salary ordinance to amend the job title of senior services coordinator to services for older adults coordinator and declaring an emergency. Are there any comments on this? Is there a motion to suspend the rules? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sacks. Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Absolutely. Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Wise.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall. Aye. Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
And is there a motion on the main motion? For ordinance 2025-34.
Do we have to make the main motion?
Yes, so now we're voting.
What?
So now we're voting. I asked if there's a,
Mr. Bryant, do we need to make a motion for the main motion?
Yes, you need a motion to pass on emergency.
yeah, that's what I just asked for. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Yeah, hold on. Is there discussion on the motion? I'd like to say I have some discussion.
Sure, Mayor.
Yes, yes. I'd like to ask Mrs. Sacks how this is different than the previous agenda item where you voted nay and you voted yea on this. This is the exact same issue. Would you please explain to the public and for the record
would-
what the difference is between correcting one job title for Ms. Bremer Fisher versus the job title for our senior services, our adult, rather our coordinator for services for older adults?
Coordinator for services for older adults has not been on grant applications, to my knowledge, has not been questioned and ignored or refuted, as has the chief of staff, which has been going on for well over a year. That's the difference. And I am thrilled to see all the things that Karen Malone, right, has been accomplishing and building upon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If
You have the floor. I don't know if you have the floor
you
again.
said thank you. May I have the floor?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm confused then. Karen Malone Wright doesn't have this title, but she has it on her business cards. Karen Malone Wright doesn't have this title, but it's on the website. Karen Malone Wright has been out there holding herself out to the community. I fail to see the distinction here, Mrs. Sacks. Could you please show us
I'm
what the
sorry
difference
that you
is?
don't see the distinction, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Wise.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall. Aye. Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
Is there a motion on the main motion on emergency? I'll make the motion.
That was
it. That was it.
I'm sorry.
Got sidetracked on that.
We got sidetracked. Okay, so agenda D passes. Agenda letter E, ordinance 2025-27, establishing section 1474.15 of the Housing Code requiring monthly Department of Housing and Community Development Department reports to the mayor and council. This is on second reading. It was on first reading.
It's on.
It's on first reading.
This was, I remember Ms. Weiser sent this to the clerk. We could just
Yes.
note that, Ms. Rubin.
It's on first reading.
Okay, and this was discussed in the Building and Housing Committee meeting. Ms. Weiser, did you want to say anything?
We've discussed this twice. It was voted out of Building and Housing, recommending to council that this be approved when it comes up on second reading, which would be the next time it appears on the agenda. This is the first time it's appeared on the agenda. This is similar to a current ordinance that we have that comes through the building department where permits, the listing of permits are sent not only, well, this will happen to the mayor, but also to council so that we have a good sense of what is going on, what houses are turning over in the city, what are some of the major issues that are starting to arise in terms of quantitative. Something that the council gets no reports on now, and the council ends up having to sort of fly blind when we start looking at potential resolutions to problems that might not be put forth by the administration, but that are good for the city and good for our residents, especially if we want to keep our housing stock up to date and as prime condition as possible for resale, so we can continue to encourage people to move to University Heights.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. Are there any other comments? This is on first reading. Okay,
Yeah, yes, I do have a comment. Thank you. This is micromanagement of the department, which is uncalled for. This is, it is perfectly appropriate for the council to seek information from the various directors and chiefs, but it is not appropriate for the council to set forth, wow, you sure are typing loudly today. It is not appropriate for the council to basically manage the operations and affairs of a director and their department by dictating the terms of a series of reports and what's to be in them. I understand at the committee meeting, it was discussed how several of these items are actually seasonal, so monthly reports don't actually even make sense on these items. And yet this is nevertheless in here. This is micromanagement of a director that I believe the chair of that committee has targeted for and has targeted repeatedly for some time. If you pass this, I will veto it. If you override my veto, I will not enforce it. So there you go.
Ms. Weiser.
I love drama, I guess.
Well,
And I really have no time for it. The reality is nobody's targeting anybody. Number two, the issue that we run into with the administration is a total lack of willingness to give anything to council in writing, even when requested. There is the snide comment about, oh, are the minutes going to be done? Because maybe that will appear in the minutes. And that way, if we go back and read the minutes, we might find things out if we sit here and publicly pepper the directors with questions. This is not about the director of that department, and it's not micromanagement. In any well-run organization, reports go to committees. They're reports the committees need. If we're the legislative branch, if we're to turn around and come up with legislation that is appropriate. If something is seasonal, something's not being done in the winter, then the answer is 0 on a report. And council's not going to be upset about it because we know on occasion we're going to have zeros. We may actually have a month where we don't have any point of sale applications. We may actually have a month where we don't have any permit inspections for point of sale. That's fine. This is not micromanaging. This is trying to get information because we are going to have to start looking legislatively at tightening up some things as we go along. Right now, the state of Ohio really does not give cities tools they need to effectively handle out-of-state LLCs that buy houses and ignore them. Those are major issues. And we can't sit here and come up with ideas where we're going to fly blind. On top of it, if it turns out there's like a ton of stuff going on, council needs to know that it has to go to the finance committee and say, hey, maybe we do need additional staffing. That allows us to support things like that. But right now, because we get no real communications out of the administration and haven't for as long as I've been on council, it's very frustrating. So although the mayor wants to call it micromanagement, it's not an attempt to micromanage the director. The director's doing the best she can with the tools she has. If we can improve the tools, that's good. And I fully understand that the mayor chooses not to enforce ordinances. He's pulled this a number of times, and the only way council can actually get those things done is to take him to court. And by the time we take him to court, he won't be the mayor. And then it would be enforced anyway. But we need to get some of this stuff on the books so everybody knows what council's looking for, even under the next administration.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. Mayor?
Yeah, I know that there's the media presence, so I want to make sure that the public knows this. And it really ought to be said for the record, even if the media weren't here. For 9.5 months, we waited to get this department properly staffed. Today, after you sat on this for months, after you sat on that coordinator position for months, we will finally be able to hire people to staff up this department. And then you have the audacity to sit here and say that the department isn't producing to your satisfaction. Well, of course it's not when it isn't properly staffed. We finally have the coordinator position approved. Now we can go and hire somebody. It will have only been a year since we asked for it by the time we get this person onboarded. And in the meantime, the business of the city had to continue. And you're going to sit here and say that you had nothing to do with it and blame me. Well, I'm blaming you, because you're the one that sat on this for months and months and months and didn't even give us the courtesy of discussion in your committee for about 4.5 months. And if you disagree that that didn't happen, all we have to do is go back and look at the record of the Building and Housing Committee and all the meetings they had where they didn't address that issue. So this is a problem that you've created, and now you've attempted to impose a solution which micromanages the department, which tries to get them to, basically produce a whole lot of information, which if the administration thinks is appropriate, it will provide. But it's up to the administration to decide what reports are appropriate to send to the council. If you want information, you can ask for information. But here you're actually dictating what the director does. That is inappropriate. We're not going to do it. You want to take me to court? If you thought you could take me to court, if you thought you had a basis and could win, then you should have done so a long time ago. But the reason that you didn't and you haven't is because you don't. Thank you.
All right, I do have
Okay,
a
this is the
response.
la-
It's the media.
This,
It's
Ms.
the
Weiser,
media.
this is the last response, and then we're going to go on to the next.
That's fine. Since he has directed that to the media, which he loves to do, I'll direct this to the media. You take a look at the things that the committee was working on when we were handed the old job description of the community development coordinator. And also, you will discover that we kept asking for an updated job description.
No, you didn't.
That, may I finish? Without
Stop.
interruption,
We're not-
Chair? would
Ms.
you
Weiser,
move
you have,
on?
Ms. Weiser has the floor,
Yeah,
Mayor.
Ms. Rubin, please.
Ms.
note that.
Weiser has the floor.
Thank you.
You will discover that it took us numerous months to get that job description. To hand council a salary line item with a job description that might not actually fit the pay range that was asked for, that doesn't work either. We have a fiduciary duty, which the mayor doesn't like, to actually decide appropriateness. I voted for this ordinance. I voted for it in the finance committee. I voted it out of the building committee because we got a job description that very clearly shows a level of competence and a level of production that matches a pay range that shows on that level. That's part of our job, and that's not micromanaging. That's systems, checks, and balances. The mayor doesn't like that we just don't pick things up and approve what he hands us. But that's not council's job. And when he says, oh, you can ask for it, we could ask and ask and ask, and we're not going to get it. And quite frankly, you can ask our law director. It is illegal when council passes an ordinance for it not to be enforced by the administration. But it's a civil penalty, not a criminal penalty, which is why the administration ignores it. And which is why councils have to go through the painful way to get administration to acknowledge that councils have legislative authority under the charter. And that legislative authority allows us to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. We are going to go on to, I'm closing comments on this.
Please.
This is on first reading. You're welcome to say this at our next meeting. We're going to move on.
This, please.
We're going to move on to letter F.
This, please. Okay, I'll just talk to Mr.
We're-
Bukowski afterwards. You can read about it in the paper. Thank you.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Letter F, Resolution 2025-32, authorizing the mayor to enter indignancy legal representation.
Indigency.
Oh, I'm sorry. Legal representation agreement with Cuyahoga County on second reading. Law Director, would you like to discuss this? I know Mr. Cicero was.
There's a system where the city gets reimbursed for indigent counsel fees for people that receive public defenders who Shaker Municipal Court. There's a convoluted system where the county gets reimbursed by the state for these fees. The county pays the fees on behalf of the city, less 3% processing fee. So this has been going on for a while. Somebody either at the state or the county decided that we need an agreement to memorialize this arrangement. So the fees haven't changed. They're still at the 2022 levels, but the county is requiring all the municipalities in the county to enter into this agreement with them in order to get reimbursed. So it was on the agenda for passage at the county council meeting last evening. I'm not sure whether it did pass or not. I couldn't tell from the website, but suspecting it did. There was a change from the first reading where it was an insurance requirement that the municipalities have insurance under the contract. It was brought up to the county that there really shouldn't be any reason for any insurance because this is just a financial reimbursement for cases that's ministerial. So that provision was removed. And we need to pass it to get reimbursed. And they're going to ask us to adopt an agreement every year. So going forward.
Thank you. Are there, Ms.
Yeah,
Weiser, you
I
have a question?
How much money does this require out of the city? Or is all of this passed through?
I think it's a pass through except for the 3%. It's my understanding. The police, and again, minor misdemeanors, people aren't eligible for public defenders in those cases because there's no possibility of jail time. If we write the offense under the state code, the state pays, it doesn't affect it by this agreement. So this is only offenses written under the municipal ordinance where people are appointed counsel. So I wouldn't think it's a lot, more than 10, 15,000 a year if that.
Because I remember asking that question and apparently administratively, we never got an answer to it. But if it isn't, if it's not a lot, then it makes sense.
Right. Just
Ms. Iconis, did you have anything to?
So I did a little bit of research and I was looking to see if we could find us either paying the county or the state or, but I couldn't. It's a little different. I'm used to having a mayor's court within the city. So that's handled differently where the mayor's court, I believe, is paying the indigent council, and then there's reporting. I believe, we do end up, there is a reconciliation with the courts twice a year to see, based on our volume, if there's additional costs that we owe. And I believe in their breakout that that is part of the fees. So for instance, last year, we ended up spending about 58,000 to Shaker Municipal Court at the end of the year, which is based on any fees that were not covered in the cases that were heard there. So I don't think we're not going to see either an influx of money in or out, much like the law director said. It seems like more of a clerical cleanup issue on their part.
Right, so it would be a percentage of that 58,000, probably a low percentage of that.
Ms. Sacks?
Thank you. I just want to say I had quite a few questions at the first reading, and I want to thank Mr. Bryan for satisfactorily answering those, and now for Ms. also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll make the second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Letter G, 1-year extension of laborers 860 CBA with a 3.5% raise. This is new to the council. The only thing we received was what was in the packet. Mayor, did you want to discuss anything?
Mr. McFerrin is here to provide a presentation on this.
Good evening, council. Thank you for allowing me to come back again. The basis behind this extension, Laborers Local 860 approached us, being the mayor, and asked if we were interested in extending the current labor agreement that expires in July of 2026 into July of 2027. The only thing that they were asking to address in that agreement is the wage article. And obviously then the duration article that goes with it. We held a labor management committee meeting as we did not have, we were not reopening the contract. We just wanted to understand their reasoning behind it. And the mayor and I, in our discussions, we found that there were probably some pretty significant advantages to doing this. Being a few, Clemens Nelson has been working with the city now for going on 3 years. And in that time, we've found that the contracts, particularly with the FOP and the IFF, have some work that needs to be done on them. And we feel that this coming spring, there's going to be the need to really drill down into those contracts and clean up a lot of the language, provide clarity that doesn't exist currently. And if you're familiar with the larger union groups, such as the FOP and the IFF, they will not back away from a challenge. And that's for good reason. That's not to fault those labor unions or those labor groups. What I believe this extension allows the city to do is put that proper focus on the IFF and the FOP agreements. And then we can regroup with this group in the following year. We do not have many grievances. We do not have many labor issues when it comes to the service group. And so the need to address this contract isn't nearly as great as the FOP and the IFF. And so if we can address those contracts, and then we can hopefully use the language that we established with those groups to not grandfather, but to apply then when we negotiate with 860, hopefully in the spring of 2027, I think that this allows our group for sure, but also the city in general to gain some efficiencies in how we negotiate these agreements. And so that is the whole entire purpose. We are not addressing any other language in this contract. Essentially, all that I'm asking council on behalf of the mayor and the administration is that council would approve the extension of a 1-year agreement with the Laborers Local 860 for an increase of 3.5%, which I will tell you was based upon the current CERB average for what's being both agreed upon and basically awarded by agreed upon in negotiations and awarded in fact finding. I'd be happy to answer any questions on that.
I have
Thank
a
you.
Question
I-
for the law director.
Okay.
It seems to me that contracts, anything about contracts, normally we have an executive session about them where we're fully briefed and we can have a pretty free-form discussion. Can I ask why we sort of chose not to do it this way?
I don't have a proper answer for you, except that this came up and there was an opportunity and it seemed fairly simple and straightforward. I would be happy to enter into executive session and have that frank conversation if that's. what
Can
you
we
desire.
do so, Mr. Bryan?
You can handle it however you want. The contract is not up until
Next
the end-
year.
Right, June
Yeah.
30th of next
Next
year.
year.
I wouldn't anticipate any negotiations wouldn't start until 2026 with any of the unions. So
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Brent. The one thing maybe that I would say to that, Ms. Weiser, is, and Mr. McFerrin was actually in one of the meetings when we discussed it. City council, because we have a professional service contract, ordinance is planning to go out for bid. I've been working with Mr. Bryan, to get an RFQ or RFP ready for September. You know, at this point, I would feel uncomfortable doing that. I think that all three of the unions should go, you know, should be handled at one time. We also don't know in terms of federal and state funding, what's going to be coming down in 2026 or further. So I think we would have even a better idea 6 months from now, 8 months from now. And for me personally, I would not want to give a 1-year extension, but I would want to go out for bid and then do all three at once. That's my preference. Are there any other comments from council? Mr. King?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I just wanted to, the only change in the contract was the 3.5% increase. I went back and looked at the contracts going back to 2020. 2020 was an interesting year, as we all know. There was a 0% raise there. 2021 and 2022 is 3.5% each. 23 and 24 was 4%. 25 is 2%. If you take those 6 years together, it comes out to be about 2.8% over that time period. And then adding on another year, a 7th year at 3.5%, we're at 2.9 over 7 years. So just wanted to put into context if anyone thinks that 3.5% is high over that period of time, we're really just kind of getting back to what people would consider to be a cost of living adjustment. So, thank you.
just, yeah, if I can ask Mr. Perry, so this isn't a take it or leave it offer that we have to decide tonight. It's something council would have time
We
to.
do not need to decide tonight. This is, and to be perfectly frank, I think this is an opportunity to put our focuses where the focus is going to be most needed. We by no means are negotiating with local 860. This came out of a labor management meeting, and we saw that there were some win-win opportunities on this. And I think some advantages for the city, and I do believe that this is a good decision and in the city's best interest to do this. You're right. We don't know what the economy is going to do, but I will tell you that our agency watches wages very, very carefully. And this group likely will follow what goes with the FOP and the IFF. And I will tell you that those groups are doing fairly well right now. This is an opportunity to set them aside and to give your attention where the attention is going to be needed. I understand your point of view, and at the end of the day, you make the decisions on what you do in your city. This is just an opportunity that we saw and that I feel is in the city's best interest. And I will leave it at that.
So just so everyone's clear, this isn't a situation in normal where we've opened up the negotiations, the committees come to an agreement, then it has to go to council for approval or non-action or disapproval, and then it would go to fact finding. This is
No.
just a proposal that's out there. The council can discuss and avail itself if it wants to.
Ms. Weiser?
I'm not normally negative to one-year extensions because sometimes they work out quite well, for both the worker and the employer. However, I do think that right now is a time when we cannot accurately project what's going to happen. Right now, the State House wants to play with property taxes. If the State House plays with property taxes and that affects us, that's going to affect every worker in the city because that's going to hurt our bottom line. Granted, our income tax carries us, but the property tax is a base that supports whatever is happening going forward. I fully understand how you may have come up with the 3.5%. Councilman King ran the numbers, and when we run numbers, we say, oh, look, it's going to look good. But I think the economic conditions right now, because the State House has decided to play in property tax, I don't think school districts can be comfortable. I don't think municipalities can be comfortable. And when contracts get negotiated, they get negotiated based on what do we have to pay people with. And if they cut property taxes, and if, especially since we have initiative, a citizen initiative, which is going to hit the ballot potentially in November, that can really hurt it because we'd go through the same upset that California did years ago, back in the 70s. I mean, that kind of effect can hurt everything, our best projections. In view of that, I'd move to table this and to refer it to the Finance Committee. And I think that way, with quiet discussion that revolves around what do we really have to play with in the budget, we're making a better fiduciary decision on this that actually helps protect the city and the employees as well.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. Are there any other comments?
Yes.
I did make a motion.
You did make a motion?
I moved to table it and refer it to the Finance Committee.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, is there discussion? Mary, you have something?
Yeah, simply that there isn't going to be anything on the ballot this fall about repealing the property tax. I know there was a fairly extreme group that was trying to do that. They didn't get the signatures. That's not happening this year. There were a lot of machinations about the property tax and about inside millage. There's still a proposal out there about inside millage. You know, that could go somewhere, it may not. But the inside millage that we have is dedicated primarily to police and fire pension and debt service and a little bit to the general fund. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it's about 4.05, Ms. Iaconis?
I believe so.
4.05 mils of inside millage the city of University Heights uses, which is, I think, 0.75 is for the police pension, 0.75 for the fire pension, I think 0.2 for debt service and the rest of the general fund. That said, it remains that when property taxes are collected, every $100 of property tax, about $10.25 is actually going to the city. The property tax is not the primary method of funds for the general fund. It is the income tax, that is. The property tax is the vehicle the majority of which goes to our school district, and then a series of other entities, the county, Tri-C, the Port Authority, the libraries, as well as the city. So though Columbus is meddling with property tax and monkeying around with that, and if they did do something to repeal inside millage, yes, we would probably have to have a police and fire levy in order to make up for it. Those are independent questions and situations, I think, from going ahead and locking in, an additional year with Laborers 860, who we've worked very well with in recent years, and allows this city to focus on the rewrites of the collective bargaining agreements for the police and fire, which is where the work really needs to be done. I mean, ultimately, I'm not going to be doing that work. So it is, but I am looking out for whoever's next. I do think this is the right thing for the city to do and for the next mayor to do. And I think it's better, for the next administration and for the council to be able to have, whether it's Clemens Nelson or somebody else, whoever's representing the city, to focus on our police and fire agreements to make them better agreements, and allow 860 and its CBA an additional year, and then come back a year later. And if there's something from the other process that we want to bring to 860, bring it then. I do think that there is a sensibility to that, rather than having all three come up next time. But we can discuss it more in committee if it does get tabled and referred to committee. Thank you.
Ms. Weiser?
One final thing. To my knowledge, our inside millage was never actually dedicated to police and fire pension by ordinance. That's casual. There is only one ordinance that I know that belonged to, it was in the 70s, a ordinance that assigned millage to fire EMS training specifically. And it is from the 1970s. I've seen the ordinance back about 8-10 years ago. Because I was doing some research when I heard about it. However, there are always two ways to replace money that may get lost when our good friends in Columbus decide to micromanage our city finances in that manner. And that is, of course, out of the income tax, which goes into the general fund, rather than go to our residents to request a levy and an additional tax for them to pay. That's like, oh, look, Columbus is giving back, and oh, look, the city will take. Columbus keeps working in that direction, I will admit, Mayor. And it is of concern to me as a local official, because they continually cut things, and then also cut things like the local government fund. They have great fun doing that. And then we scramble to make up differences. So although overall, I don't disagree with your statements, I would point out that that's a huge assumption that any council, the council going forward, would turn around and say, okay, we're going to put a levy on the ballot and get that money back. Because that may not be the appropriate thing to do. One of the challenges that will remain in this city, as you pointed out, is that 68% of our property taxes go to the school district. Those are non-renewable. Those are levies that have no end. They're going to be there. And, I know that Columbus wants to nip at that as well, which means if that gets nipped, they'll be back too. So I really have a sensitivity to property tax, because we can tax people out of their homes with it. And I think we need to be very aware of that.
Thank you. The other thing that I just wanted to bring up was that, what we have done in the past few negotiations is that basically police, fire, and service all receive the same rate. This is basically now the threshold for police and fire, which, cost of living ranges could be, the average was 2.8 or 2.9. It could be from 2% to 3% to 4%. So that also is, one reason why we just need to be fiscally responsible. And I think going out for bid with everything would be prudent. We do have Mary, you
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
say
no,
something?
yeah, no, I appreciate Ms. Weiser's points. Yeah, and to the public, yeah, we don't have to put a levy on the ballot to restore police and fire pensions if inside millage is eliminated. But then the alternative to finding that funding is layoffs of police and fire. So, if we want to explore what the alternative is, and I know Ms. Weiser's on the record at various committee meetings that we have too many police and fire employees. Yes, it is true. It is true that, and it has been done, it has been said at finance meetings when she was a member of the lay finance committee. Then, we can avoid, if there's a reduction in the amount of money available to pay police and fire, we either need to find more money or we have to lay off people. So when you're hearing that we don't have to go find more money, then what you're hearing is we're going to lay off police and fire officers.
Yeah.
So that's, I just want to make sure people understand that. And that's what's being advocated here by Ms. Weiser. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor, which is to refer this to the Finance Committee. And there was a second. Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Nay.
Ms. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this will be referred to the Finance Committee. Letter H. Ordinance 2025-36, repealing chapters 882 and 896 of the city's codified ordinances that regulate short-term residential property rentals and impose a short-term rental tax, and enacting a new chapter 882 banning short-term rentals and declaring an emergency on emergency. This was discussed at many meetings in Building and Housing Council, and the mayor were present. There is a robust ordinance right now that had everybody's input. Mayor, I'd like to hear why you want to ban this.
Yes. We've had a change on the ground with regard to what's going on in Columbus. Columbus is looking to prevent municipalities from being able to legislate and regulate the existence of short-term rentals. The lobbyists for VRBO and Airbnb have done a lot to try to advance here in Ohio the idea that that local government shouldn't be allowed to regulate these. But one of the things that's come up in committee and is being advanced as a strong possibility would be the idea that this would be prospective and that it would prohibit local government from doing this on a on a prospective basis, and that it would grandfather in more restrictive things. Shaker Heights last month went ahead and did a ban, and for good reason, because if you do a ban of these short-term rentals, and if the state law is passed as being currently contemplated, then the ban that pre-exists the passage of that law stays. And if Shaker Heights were to decide that they want to do something a little less restrictive, then they're in a position where they're able to do it. They just can't do something more restrictive. So what I'm proposing is that we do the same thing, that we do something that's more restrictive, that we go ahead and I know people put a lot of work into the other ordinance, but given what's going on, the idea that we would go ahead and implement our own ban, and there are good reasons for having a ban. We are a residential community. We benefit from having long-term rentals as well as owner-occupied homes, but there is no benefit to this community in having short-term rentals in the same respect that there is having long-term rentals and owner-occupied properties. We are a residential community primarily. We're not a vacation destination.
there isn't a really a pressing need for having short-term rentals within our community. There are other options within the region and in adjacent communities for short-term rentals and for hotels. And this is something that we could do to protect our interests, protect our neighborhoods, promote the idea that when you buy a house in University Heights, you either live in it or you make it available for people to live in long-term, not short-term. And if people are going to invest in the community, that the investments be for long-term rentals. And that is good for keeping the housing affordable in University Heights and keeping the character of our neighborhood such that we are encouraging long-term residential presence here, whether it's, due to owner occupied for years and years or on the year-to-year basis of long-term rentals that are generally contemplated here in the city. So this is something where, especially after hearing, the other piece of this is we had a committee meeting where we heard from a resident who dealt with a problem, short-term rental next door. We all heard, many of us were there, the party that happened, the jeopardy that this put their child in, who had certain health conditions that they, discussed freely on the record. And this is not something, this is not a necessary feature of our community. We don't have to have this and still be a great place to live. If anything, we are more likely to continue to be a great place to live by avoiding having these problems. And we avoid these problems by simply having the outright ban. And given the current position in Columbus, where if they do go with a statewide statute with regard to short-term rentals, then a ban that we would put in would be grandfathered in. And if we decide later we want to do something different and do what the state's doing, then we can do that then. Thank you.
So I have a few questions for Mr. Bryan, since we discussed this at length at our last meeting. And Mayor, this is the first time you've ever said anything of that. It's been completely opposite in all the other meetings that we've discussed. But Mr. Bryan, we asked two specific questions at the last meeting, the building and housing meeting. One was, if we have a ordinance in place already, we are allowed to make changes, either lessen them or we're allowed to make changes in general. And you replied that yes, we can make changes as long as we have an ordinance in effect.
We can make changes, yes. We would be unable to entirely ban short-term rentals if the state law passes in its current iteration. But we would be able to make changes. We would be probably forced to make some changes, such as reducing the application fee from $250 a year to $25 and then having no fee for renewals. But I think everything else that I've seen, our ordinance would stay intact.
And just for the benefit of the public, we have a pretty restrictive ordinance as it is in terms of neighborhoods, blocks, how many you're allowed to have. We put a lot of thought into this. And it was not something that was, just flippant. Ms. Weiser.
Thank you. As the chair of the committee, we did take a vote and we voted to recommend to council that this not be approved. In the discussion, a couple of very good points came up. I happened to talk to a couple of people that actually have short-term rentals. Number one, a short-term rental is less than 30 days. And anybody who does a short-term rental, especially if our current ordinance had been enforced, they would have been permitted. They wouldn't be allowed to have a party after 10 p.m. With the threat of that permit being pulled, which in essence bans them from renting it as a short-term rental, which was the problem that arose on Silsby. But one of the things that and there are some short-term rental owners in this city who are good short-term rental owners. They come back and inspect their properties as soon as the contract is up with whoever has it for a week or 2 weeks. They then are looking for any damage, because as a part of the contract that they have usually with these people, there is a security deposit that's covering repairs. So the push to keep those properties actually inspected, repaired, and up to date is actually more in terms of a good rental owner. We have some very, very good rental owners of long-term rentals as well. However, we have a number of them that are not so good. They can rent for 45 days and be considered a long-term rental because it's a contract. That can be problematic. So actually, done well and done right, and with an enforcement of an ordinance, the current ordinance that we actually have the power to ensure that those units are being maintained well and up to date. One of the other things I found is that some people who are renting in University Heights are doing it because they're allowed to bring their dogs with them. A lot of them come in when they have treatment at Cleveland Clinic, where they're required to be here for 2 weeks. So part of the family comes in. They're able to live in a home-like atmosphere. Those are the people that we never get complaints about. The issues that arise with short-term rentals are the party houses. And because we are not enforcing our current ordinance, A, they don't have to be registered, and B, all we can do is cite them under nuisance. This gives us what we have, a lot more power. On top of it, the reason for not enforcing the short-term rental ordinance for the past, I think it's about how many months, has been I don't have the coordinator, the community development coordinator position. If I have that position, I can enforce that ordinance. That's what we were told by the administration. So now to suddenly reverse course and just say we're going to ban them entirely becomes problematic because they're not really going to go away. Right now, they're unregulated and they're here. Do we want to ban them and ignore the ban when people continue to rent them? I mean, we're not doing anything with them now, which we should have been doing since last year when the ordinance was passed. So all of those things in the discussion that we had at Building and Housing led the committee to make the recommendation to council to not approve banning them, but rather to enforce the ordinance that we currently have on the books.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. Just for everybody's knowledge, whoever makes a motion, if you are making a motion, a nay would be to keep the ordinance on the books. Mr. King?
We don't have to make a motion at all, right? Yes.
That's true.
Short-term rental. It's on books.
Yes.
Supposed to ban.
Yes.
Although if we make the motion,
You can-
and the nays have it, that kills the ordinance totally. Mr. Bryan, am I right? Which is, if we just don't make a motion to approve it, it just sits out there,
We
right?
go on second reading.
It goes on second reading.
Because it's on emergency right now.
Right, just so everyone knows, I have to go to a regularly scheduled meeting, get there by 7:30. For the next ordinance, just so everyone's clear, 2025-17, we need to amend it for the new fee from the tariff for the garbage truck. So everyone should make a motion to amend because we're amending the ordinance that was already passed. And a motion to suspend the rules just to be safe since it's significant. I mean, some may say it's a significant change. And then a motion to pass on emergency, even it's on second reading, but I would still suspend the rules just because of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan.
All right, thanks.
So is there a motion to vote on ordinance 2025-36? I will make a motion. Is there a second? I'm sorry, I will,
Wait,
we're first have to suspend, this is on emergency, so there's a couple of things going on here. I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules.
I want clarification, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
So if we're saying nay, we're saying like on this particular vote you're about to take, if we're saying nay, are we saying we don't want to ban?
Yes. We want to keep the
Yeah,
ordinance.
This ordinance would be to ban them. Want to pass the ordinance to ban them,
Mhm.
need to suspend the rules.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm making a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Ms. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Weiser,
You just
Look,
forgot Ms. Sacks.
You forgot two people.
and Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Okay, Mrs. Sacks, Mrs. Weiss,
Aye. And then Ms. Weiser.
Ms. Weiser,
We get everybody.
Aye.
Okay, and is there a motion on emergency to vote for ordinance 2025-36? I will make a motion on emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Marshall.
okay, Mr. King,
Nay.
Mrs. Sacks.
Nay.
and, Marshall,
Nay.
Well, you forgot Ms. Weiss.
Mrs. Weiss,
Nay.
and Ms. Weiser.
Nay.
Okay, so the ordinance stays. Letter I, ordinance 2025-17. This is amended version 2, authorizing the mayor to accept a quote received from the Municipal Equipment Incorporated for the purchase of a new garbage truck and enter into a tax exempt municipal financing lease to own agreement with One Magnolia LLC and declaring an emergency on emergency. Thank you.
Yes, Vice Mayor Weiss, on this item here, we did approve the purchase of a garbage truck earlier this year. Unfortunately, due to the timing from the time that we initially got our quote until the ordinance was passed, we exceeded the number of days allotted for them honoring the original price that we had. Subsequently, when they submitted the bid or the order, due to tariffs that have been implemented, the chassis was going to cost an additional $5,800. Subsequently, now we need to amend the ordinance to allow for the garbage truck purchase to go forward at an additional $5,800 cost.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Pennington? Hey, is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Okay, Ms. Weiser and then seconded by Ms. Sacks.
Thank you.
Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
And is there a motion on emergency for the amended ordinance 2025-17?
So moved on emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Marshall. Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Okay, Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Ms. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Pennington. Up to letter J, motion to approve fire department roof project. Chief Perko.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The roof project was presented on a finance committee meeting last year for the budget this year. We had a discussion about multitude of leaks that have been going on over the last decade with the roof, including a decent failure of the roof during the August storm of last year, which has since been patched and repaired. All the quotes recommended a full tear off and replacement of the roof, although they could not guarantee any potential issues that they would see, once it's torn off and they get into a full replacement. We've collected 3 quotes that are provided in the packet, along with a memo outlining the importance of having our critical infrastructure protected with a roof, It seems that no time is really a great time to do a full roof replacement, but we wanted to wait until we were out of the rainy spring season that seemed to carry on forever. So this seems to be a good time to try and get this taken care of. While not the lowest quote, we are recommending what we believe to be the best quote from West Side Roofing. They have done a multitude of repairs on our roof over the years, including emergency repairs, especially the larger emergency repair from the storm damage last year. We believe that we were prioritized because we were a repeat customer. There was a lot of widespread damage last year, and it was a hard time to get a vendor to come out for that repair, let alone some of our other ones that persistently need patchwork for the leaks. We have a unique building, critical needs. It's attached to City Hall. Obviously, the complex is open 24/7. We have the alleyway for the service department that uses that all day, every day. And Westside Roofing has that institutional knowledge of how to work around some of the additional challenges and hurdles with our building footprint over there. They were also the most responsiveness to the quote. We believe that their responsiveness to quoting it and how they react not only with the previous work, but just in getting the quotes from the other vendors are probably indicative of how their work quality would be and their craftsmanship. So we recommend moving forward with the replacement of the roof this year, so we don't have any further failure points. We recommend Westside Roofing.
Thank you, Chief Burkle. Are there any questions for the chief? Yes, Ms. Weiser?
Were any references checked for any of these companies?
From the previous fire departments?
All three companies?
No, they just provided what was in the quote. bid.
So there was no willingness to go and get references for the other companies. There's a 12% difference between the middle bid, which is the one you're recommending, and the lowest bid. And I would think you would at least would have looked for recommendations as well. I understand your argument that the other company has come and done patching, but you're now talking about replacing the entire roof with a rather sizable difference in the quoted prices. I'm not saying that the one with the lowest bid could be declared the best bidder, but I think at least doing some due diligence and getting some references would have been helpful. We normally do that. I know the engineer does it with, especially when we get new bids in from newer companies that want to bid on some of our road things. The second thing is, you noted in the packet that the facilities person from the department made the decision on this or made the recommendation on this. What roofing knowledge does he have? I mean, I understand why you have one person in your department who makes recommendations, especially about fire equipment, because your fire equipment is so specialized. But now we're talking about a roof, and we're talking about the type of material that you're laying down on the top. Was anybody else, like in the service department, talked to on this at all?
No, our captain that oversees our maintenance, oversees the maintenance of the fleet and the facility. That person's been assigned to this role for a number of years, although no, they are not a roofer or have any institutional knowledge, most likely, of roofing projects. They have been the person that has been the point coordinating with obtaining quotes for patchwork over the years, over all the vendors that we've tried to get work from, including these three that were here.
I certainly would say some of the photos submitted by the third contractor about the condition of the roof clearly showed the number of very interesting patching we have up there. I'm not a roofing expert, but I do believe in hunting up references before one makes just a decision based on who came in and patched. And especially because of the fact that it's like a 12% difference. I mean, if we were talking pennies, I wouldn't be bringing the question up, Chief. I think it's a valid question from a fiduciary point of view.
Mayor?
Yes, I'm unclear whose references the councilwoman would want you to seek. I mean, what we do have is, we have a recommended contractor that the fire department is, and the city is asking for here. And we've already got prior experience with this contractor. They've come out, when we've needed them quickly for other matters. They have been responsive, they've been helpful, and this is a situation, in my view, where if we value building and having relationships and being able to call on them in the future when there's other situations, and they're bound to be situations, continuing to establish or continuing to grow an established relationship with a particular contractor when we have a building such as the 1941 era firehouse is something that is valuable. And that is something that, to me, is more important than necessarily calling, certain references. We've already got experience with this contractor. I would recommend that we go ahead and proceed with the contractor that the fire department has asked for here today.
Ms. Weiser?
Not saying it's not nice to build personal relationships. However, at the municipal level, because we deal with public money, it's why we go out for bids. And it is to prevent people from falling into the habit of picking one contractor constantly and assuming that contractor is consistent and does better work than any other contractor, especially in areas where we have product that changes. We don't do roofs the way we used to do them. That I do know. And those types of things are why we do a bidding thing, and why cities look for lowest and best. We understand that sometimes lowest is not best, but in order to ensure that lowest or the middle is best over lowest, checking references is a good place to start. And it's something that I think any of us, when we go to do things, we all need to do, even for work we have on our own homes. Because we cannot assume that as companies go along, they maintain the same high level of quality that we think they do. And very often we discover that things change. Firms change over time. So while I certainly applaud wanting to build relationships, I also tend to take a very neutral stance as far as things that we do bidding wise. That's all. I think references are perfectly appropriate in that case.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. Chief, did any of these three say like time frame when they can get to it?
No, I think they'll try to get it as a priority.
Okay. Is there a motion? I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks,
This is to proceed with this specific vendor?
Yes.
Nay.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Ms. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Weiser.
Nay.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And
Wait,
I don't
hold up.
think it does.
Point of order, it didn't pass.
it's
You
three.
need 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. So Chief, what I would say is maybe come back with references at the next meeting and then it can be put back.
May I comment?
Sure.
I did meet with the chief and the mayor and in regards to this project, and I highly encourage him to present it and to move forward. It's a problem with the conditions for our employees. This is a serious issue they've dealt with for a very long time. I will also say having somebody who you've actually experienced their work is very valuable and building relationships. And I think without publicly disparaging anybody else that presented a quote, I think that he did do his due diligence in finding the most responsive and the most willing of the three to quote. So I know it is more. I think that you know the workmanship you're getting. I think that it's a good quote, and I think that the project needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, we had the vote already. I think everyone needs, the project needs to be done. You know,
That's not the
you want
question.
to, if you want to,
No, I just put
since
my
it
two cents.
fails, I
Yeah,
think
that's not
come
the
back with the
question.
references and then hopefully it will pass.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody voted nay and wants to move to reconsider, they can do that, based upon what Ms. Iacona said.
Are
I
we
would have
having
spoke up
discussion?
sooner. I
No, I mean,
You know,
it's
it's
not-
just
it's
only
been
the
like-
fire department
so
roof,
let's-
Mrs. Sacks, so you want to have a roof
So-
on the fire department or not?
Okay.
You're not running the meeting. I'm asking.
This
Vice
motion
Mayor Weiss.
failed.
Thank you.
I think, Chief, if you come back with references, we can get it passed
Vice
quickly.
Mayor, I just said to Mrs. Iconis, I wish she would have spoken up during the discussion.
Yeah.
You can move to reconsider, Mrs. White, Ms. Weiser.
Mayor,
Mayor,
You're
you
not
are
leading
out
the
of
meeting.
order. I do have the floor. I know it drives you crazy, but okay. Thank you. Because that would have potentially made a difference in my vote. And that, I realized that from the way you said it, that there was some discussion about the other vendors and the choice of who was best. The chief chose not to say that. That doesn't give us the information we need when voting. I think you handled it very delicately. And I would be willing to reconsider my vote.
Okay. Are other council members willing to make a motion to, I think we would
Well,
have to
I think
we have to amend the agenda, I think, first to put it back on the table.
I would so move. I mean, I'm happy I was a nay vote. I believe I can do that.
That is correct.
Okay, so you move to put,
To reconsider.
to
the vote.
reconsider letter J on the agenda.
We could.
Well, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Okay, so let me just
No,
clarify.
wait, I think Mrs. Sachs wanted, did you want more discussion?
I do. Is that after?
Well, this is a motion to put it back on the table,
It's a motion to put it
Back
back
on
on
the
the
agenda.
table only. All right,
On
to
the agenda.
reconsider.
to take it, yes. Ms. Weiser,
I made the motion because I'm a nay vote. I can make it.
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
Okay, so now this is being reconsidered. Ms. Sacks, did you have anything to say?
Thank you. I recognize that the fire department building is in very deplorable condition. And we are working diligently in the facilities committee to do something about that. I do recall the discussion about the roof and it was in the budget, I believe.
Yeah, well,
And that is not the question. The question was when, and I've said this many times and I'll continue to say it, when something is brought to council, the whole thing needs to be brought to council, whether it's all the parts of the expense involved in a project or it's recommendation, referral, reference checks, whatever goes into what you're bringing us. Please bring a whole thing because to bypass it in and of itself is, it could be the difference between getting a good product or something that you expected and it fell short. So thank you for your comments and your recommendation.
I'll speak up sooner next time.
That's okay. You're getting used to
Okay.
us.
Ms. Weiser,
Yeah, Chief, here's what I would say. If you had gotten the references for the company you want to reference yourself to say an outside person, outside company, what you do is you take them from just doing patching to being able to do a complete job. And you give us additional evidence that explains why you would choose a quote that was 12% higher. That's a good thing to do. And that way you're not talking about the people you are not recommending, but you are definitely taking it out of just, we work with these people, we like them, and we want this quote. You are saying to us, this is a firm that is good, and they have done other work in commercial buildings. And the people who have done them when they did whole roofs recommend them as well. And that
Well
doesn't
said.
take that long to do. Then you don't find yourself with somebody saying, did you get references? And you still can handle it. And that way, the finance director doesn't have to dance on the head of a pin to be able to give us information.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. So is there a motion to reconsider the approval of the fire department roof project?
So
I'll second.
Okay, so moved by Ms. Marshall, second by Ms. Weiser. Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Weiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, and the last item, letter K, motion to approve this.
Point of order. You've reconsidered, but now upon reconsideration, you need to move to approve.
We did move to.
Well, that's what, we put it back for reconsideration and then we
Right.
just moved to approve.
Your motion was not to approve, it was to reconsider.
We did the reconsider motion initially, Mayor.
Oh, I know, but
We
you
approved
didn't,
it.
but then you made another motion to reconsider. You did not make a motion to approve.
Consider. He is right on this. I move that we approve
Thank
Okay.
the recommendation to use whatever company it is
West side.
for the repair of the fire station roof.
I second.
Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
He'll get it.
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Weiser.
Aye. There we go.
Now letter K, motion to approve the CMAQ citywide signal project proposal. Ms. Mockby?
Hello. So this is something that started, many years ago, 2018. The city was awarded funding. The CMAQ is the congestion mitigation and air quality funding from NOACA, and the city has the potential of receiving $500,000 through this funding to improve citywide signals, traffic signals. And so basically, NOACA and ODOT, they want us to either commit or give back the funding. So we've kind of come, to the end of the ball game here with this funding. So I just kind of took a look at what was in the paperwork before. It's 16 traffic signal improvements and 4 traffic signal reconstructions. So those reconstructions would get everything new, poles, lights, wiring. Whereas the signal improvements would be just wouldn't have the large poles, just all the guts inside of the lights, which would be replaced. This would also link all the traffic signals, for emergency services. So that's why it's presented as a citywide project, rather than doing a couple traffic signals each year. You see most of the intersections are on Cedar Road, and then we have a few on Warrensville Center Road, and then Washington Boulevard, and then Green Road over there by Heinens would also be one of the intersections. So overall, though, the project, I have it estimated at like $2.5 million for construction, engineering, and then inspection. 500,000 would be CMAQ funding, and then the rest would be the city's responsibility. If you decide that this is something we want to move forward on, the next steps would be coordinating meetings with ODOT and getting a firm, a design firm hired so that they could start the design. And that would have to go out for an RFQ.
Okay, so I have a few questions, I
Sure.
guess, to start off. So we have very maybe broadly talked about signal replacement,
Mhm.
but, you know, not specifically. And I mean, honestly, I don't remember about this grant in 2018. What is the time frame of when they would install them? What's like payment plans? I mean, is there anything, do we have any idea of that?
Well, I think, I'm not sure. I think you would get the $500,000 as a reimbursement, when the project would go to construction. And then usually at the end of the projects, there's a final reconciliation and, I mean, it says it's 80% of eligible costs up to $500,000. So our project at the estimated cost right now, we would be able to receive probably the full $500,000.
But we have to pay 2 million.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, that part, yes.
And is
There's
there a
no-
way to piecemeal it, or is it all or nothing, the project?
And- Well, it's, your signals, if you want them all to interact and to go on and off when they need to go on and off for emergency vehicles, it's good to do it all together. I don't know, in the long run, if you only do a quarter of it now and, you spread it out over, phasing, it could come in at a higher cost.
Mayor?
Yeah, it just, Ms. Mockbee, if we piecemeal this, take all the signals on Cedar Road, for instance, which are most of the signals that are affected here. If we only do some of them, and we're talking about upgrading the control boxes, we're talking about, upgrading them for the emergency vehicles. If we only do a quarter of them, for instance, then if an emergency vehicle is going through there, we've got the benefit of the upgraded signals for a quarter of the distance. And then what happens after that? For the remaining 3/4 of the distance.
I guess whatever the old system is.
Right, so we don't have lights that are,
Right,
that work in this respect. And we don't, even in the non-emergency situations, we don't have lights that are timed and coordinated with the new lights, right?
Right, they're probably timed as close as they could. So.
Right, so if we're trying to improve the flow of traffic on Cedar Road, which we all hear about all the time, and the flow of traffic on Warrensville Center Road around Cedar Center, which we hear about all the time, then upgrading all the traffic lights so that they all work together and that are all timed properly, as well as being able to function accordingly in emergency situations, but even in just regular everyday traffic situations, then that necessitates doing them all. If you only do a few of them, then it only improves the few, as I understand. And then once you're past those few, you're back to the regular bottlenecking of, gee, why is this light red when I feel like it should be green?
Yes.
Correct?
So I'm just uncomfortable with seeing something for $2 million to pass with not a whole lot of background. I'd rather it, like, what's the time frame that you said that it's kind of use it or lose it right now? What's the time frame that they said we have to have an answer by? Because I would refer to service and utilities. I just don't think.
Well, it's slated for ODOT fiscal year or state fiscal year 2026. So I'm not sure how that all works. Do you know? Like, is that mid-year? Oh,
Mr. Frank?
State fiscal 2026 would be July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. The funds would have to be expended within that particular calendar year or the project awarded during that calendar year. The, you did mention the timing, Mayor, that is dealing with interconnection between the signals as well as the emergency preemption is another feature on there for the fire and police. But the main thing that makes us eligible with CMAQ funding is the congestion mitigation and air quality by timing the lights, interconnecting the lights to where they talk to each other and give you the flow down the corridor. So with that, the funding would be available in the state fiscal 2026 year, which means designing later this year and probably construction next year. That our funds would have to be put forward at the time of the project. Now, could we do a scaled down project and do a smaller area? Yes, but you're not going to get any additional CMAQ funding out of NOACA for that.
So one more funding before I call on the other council members. Ms. McAfee, will this grant come up again? If we don't take it now?
I believe so. But there's no guarantee, you know, we would be in line to, like, if we give it up, that we would be first in line to get the next one.
Okay.
Like Alan said, so we are in state fiscal year 2026
Yes.
now. And that's why they would like to see some sort of commitment if we're going to do it. So we might not necessarily have to go to construction by next year, but we would have to have somebody on board. You know, we would have to be taking those steps that we are going full-fledged forward on this project.
Okay, first Ms. Weiser, then Mr. King.
I got nothing in my packet. I
got
got nothing
this.
about this.
You got this,
No, well,
a map.
I've got
No
nothing
wording.
here.
There's a memo.
No, there's a memo.
There is?
Yeah.
I got,
It should- there's
I've got the
There's
packet
memo, there's
up.
numbers.
It's the second item in the packet because when the packet was put together, it was originally the second item on the agenda.
All
It
right.
got moved to the end. So you need to look at the beginning of the packet. It didn't get reordered.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
I'm sorry.
Okay, I remember.
Mr. King?
Um,
Oh, I'm sorry.
did we, is there anything,
No, I don't.
has this been discussed in any council committee to date?
Yes.
Here it is.
Which one?
Well, back when we first got it in 2018. I mean, the short history is 2018, 2019. It was looked at and there was considered plenty of time to look at this. 2020, the pandemic came, everything got punted. After that, focus was directed to changing out the city engineer. Now we have the new city engineer and this is, back.
Okay, so remember, some of us weren't here in 2018.
Yeah, but some of you were.
Huh?
But some of you were.
Some
Yes.
were, but I don't believe, gee, Mr. King wasn't, I wasn't, Mrs. Sachs wasn't, Miss Marshall wasn't, so that's 4 members of council already. Although,
Well, there's always the first time you hear about something.
yeah, and always
You
when you
vote on
put it in front of us to
$2 million.
vote on it, it becomes problematic. Because then we have to figure out on the fly, outside of just what little we have in the packet,
Mhm.
which, yes, there they are. There's all those nice signals. There's not a lot except, hey, the probable cost is gonna be 2 million and we can get 500,000, which means, based on what they just said, we're committing, because this isn't in the budget yet.
Right? Not yet.
And we're talking about committing $1.5 million of our dollars in 2026 towards this project.
2
So we'll
million.
have to show
2
up.
million.
Huh?
2 million.
2 million.
It's 2.5 million. It's 2.5 million, the full
Oh,
project.
okay. So
Yeah.
we're looking at the funds in 2020. Yeah, 6 for this, and it's like, here, let's spend this now. I don't know. I honestly don't.
Mr. King?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I've just been looking at the way this is constructed and the wording of the CMAQ funding. It says that they'll provide up to 80% of the cost up to $500,000. So we only have to do 20% match. Now, looking at the scope of work, there are there are 2 distinct things happening here. One is we're upgrading a bunch of our signals. And then we are replacing 4 of them. The cost for replacing the 4 lights is $1.1 million. There's some construction costs, I'm sure that, or there's another cost in here that I don't think is mentioned, so it's not broken down, but if we look at where the signal replacements are, it's at Washington and Silsbee, Washington and Silsbee and Fenwick, Meadowbrook and Warrensville, and then Green Road at Heinens. All the other lights are down Cedar and then the immediate vicinity of Cedar on Warrensville Center Road. We could get a lot of value out of just contemplating upgrading those lights. And the total cost of the signal improvement is listed as, for 16 signals, is listed as $800,000. There'd be a little bit more cost in there from the contingencies, which isn't broken out. But then you add in the $500,000 of CMAQ. That's looking like a lot more feasible for us to do. And then we could potentially seek further funding for replacement signals.
Well, then you also just don't forget you have $400,000 of design and construction inspection
yeah.
costs. So it's still, even if we did the 16, it's well over $1 million. I just feel that we need a more detailed discussion about this in committee before any of us can commit to a $2 million project, which we all know, there's multiple things on our plate right now: facilities, sewers, streets. I mean, we can go on and on. What's our priority? So, Ms. Sachs?
Thank you. If there's time, we do have a joint Service and Utilities Committee and Building and Housing on August 14th, which there'll be a quorum of service and utility. We can do similar to what we did recently with the Building and Housing and have this as the first part of that meeting. If you could find out if we have some time. It's very concerning that the fiscal year's already started. We're 3+ weeks into it to have this discussion. I don't know. Okay. So, and I do have a question. So if we consider either improvement or reconstruction for the intersection of Silsbee, Washington by City Hall in Warrensville, I believe that's a reconstruction right now.
Mhm.
That's one of that's the signal or the crosswalk where we had public comment. We had several residents very concerned about safety to cross the street. Would that include that type of safety mechanism improvement? Like how many seconds it takes, a person has to cross each street with the left-hand turns and all that in that very interesting and unique and complex.
Yes.
Okay, so, it might not be all or nothing, that may be a critical juncture. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, several good points have come up here about how we could parse out the project, as Mr. King pointed out, and also, what the priorities are. When you consider the facilities discussion, for instance, there's been discussion about how we find 1.7 to 1.8 million out of the existing operating budget to service, debt for new facilities. This is, emblematic of the difficulty you come into because you have projects like this that benefit the public in a very tangible way. When it comes to, most of our public isn't going to be inside a police station or a fire station, but they're all going to ride down Cedar Road, whether they drive down Cedar Road, bike down Cedar Road, walk along Cedar Road, or take a bus down Cedar Road.
And then, Mrs. Sachs brings up the intersection that we've had, a lot of public comment on already. I can tell you, I cross through that intersection all the time, and I fully agree that that intersection needs work. Because I cross through there in order to go to the annex, and that's something that happens on several times a week. So this is something where there's a great amount of benefit to the public. Yeah, it costs a fair amount of money. In order to get the full benefit of the match, we got to spend at least $600,000, because 80% of 600,000 is the 500,000. So if we're only looking at signal improvement completion, that's going to reduce the construction contingency. That's going to reduce the engineering design cost and construction amendment amount, inspection amount. It's still going to be, a sizable amount. It doesn't get everything done that ought to be done, but it does get the full benefit of the CMAQ funding. It does get the benefit of improving air quality, because we don't have cars that are just sitting there belching out exhaust needlessly when they could be moving along. And it does improve the flow of traffic on Cedar and Warrensville Center roads. So that is definitely something that this council ought to consider for the benefit of the public. And that is something that Ms. Mockbee, I'm sure, could write up for a committee discussion, for a committee to be heard, to hear this in August, to then be considered in September, so that we can then tell ODOT exactly what we want, and that hopefully, yes, we are taking advantage of this money and we are improving traffic in University Heights, and that is something that the city government, all of us, can stand for. So I would encourage that happen. If you think about the way the traffic lights look around the city, the updated ones are the ones that are on the booms, and the ones that are still on the wires, these are the ones that we're talking about. The wire that spans the Meadowbrook Warrensville Center intersection, the wires that span the intersection outside of City Hall, over there on Fenwick and Washington Boulevard, and then finally the South Green Road Heinens Drive entrance. Those are the old style mounts. And that's the dead giveaway of which intersections we're talking about. The other ones have been done, which is great. So they can continue to need to be done, and we can at least get the mechanisms for the lights and the crosswalks improved. But we wanted to make sure that we got this before you, here today as part of this special, so that we can get this rolling and still take advantage of this money. So I would encourage you, if you're not going to, choose something tonight, unless you were confident that you wanted to dedicate the $2.5 million, well, the $2 million after the 500,000, in next year's budget, which that's a big ask. But, we've already done the exercise of trying to carve away 1.2 to 1.8 million a year. So we're not building new facilities next year. So that's that money if you want to do that. Otherwise, what we're looking at is you have a committee meeting next month, as suggested. You pare down this project with Ms. Mockbee to something that you're willing to do for the public, and then we pass something in September and get back to ODOT and get it done in the next year. Still can be done in this fiscal year. Thank you.
So, Ms. Mockbee, can you see if your schedule allows you to attend August
Sure.
14th and get
Mhm.
together with Ms. Sachs? And then I
And
would and Mr. Pennington, and I would suggest also if any council member has any specific questions, so you could prepare.
Email
That,
them.
that would be great if we could email. Ms. Weiser?
I think signal upgrades are great. However, I'm still waiting to find the listing of the street repairs, which ones we need to do quicker. And I think that's due in September or?
We're working on it for
Okay.
fall.
Because that's gonna tell us if we've got lots of extra money to do signal repair, while this particular grant is hanging out there, or if the money would better be directed towards repairing a street that needs repair. Unfortunately, we have competing things. And I guarantee you, residents have been complaining about streets, and quite loudly, and much more loudly than I'm stuck at this light again. And I think we need to acknowledge that and think about what kind of priorities we need to. So I think this is good. That would be helpful to get that additional information. It's informative, but I'm also can't wait until we really know what we're gonna have to plug into streets to get them up to date.
Okay, great. Ms. Sachs, you had something to say?
This might be off topic, so let me know. I'm just curious what the anticipated time frame is for street program. Is it not, we 90 days out? 180 days
The
out?
current one for this year
What, no,
or,
what, you're the plan?
oh, the
The go-
evaluation?
Yes,
Well, we're working on it now and I plan on bringing it to the September meetings or sharing it with the mayor in September.
okay.
So we are working on it.
Okay. Maybe I'll doodle for a service meeting in September as well. Thank you.
Okay, so, Ms. Sacks, if you're comfortable having this, go to
I am.
committee.
I would, if Ms. Weiser is.
Okay.
When are you willing to, that joint meeting to have service and utilities address the traffic light?
I'm not necessarily negative to it.
No, I mean to having a discussion at that meeting.
I
Oh.
heard what you said,
Oh, okay.
Councilwoman Sachs. I'm telling you, I'm not necessarily negative to it. However, I remind everybody it will delay finalizing weeds. And as long as we understand, everybody understands that is coming from the administration is going to affect that and move it to the next meeting. And we had sort of hoped to get through stuff and, but yeah, no, I don't have any problem with that.
Okay, so is there a motion to refer this to service and utilities? And table this for a future meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Ms. Rubin, will you, call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks,
Hi.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Mrs. Marshall. And Ms. Weiser.
aye,
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
second,
Ms. Rubin, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Weiser.
aye.
I want to thank everybody for coming.